everybody. We moved from lane 22 over to lane 23 because so oftentimes I have people tell me about the background noise from the ball return, and I think this is much quieter over here. So it'll be a little bit more difficult for Tim to get to the side of me. You know, when you're on an even lane, you have more room to the side to walk up, but we'll see how it works for today. And if it works out well, then we'll just use this lane from now on. Here's what we're going to do today. Axiom Pearl. Just came out. Symmetrical. As you can see, that's the familiar layout that you've seen in most of my stuff whenever we've tested stuff. And I had the Parallax in my bag. Even though the Parallax is asymmetrical, I wanted to try to compare these balls ball to ball, and we'll go from there, seeing as the Parallax just hit the market. Here's kind of the background story. I have thrown the Parallax a little bit in competition, and I had the Axiom Pearl with me this past weekend in the doubles regional that I bowled. A big shout out to Troy Lint and Daryl Bauer for shooting 537, I think, 536, the last game, to pass Bo Gergen and myself by 13 pins. Troy Lint bowled phenomenal. Many of you might not know Troy Lint. Left-hander, throws it great. Just turned 50 as well, and he averaged almost, I think, close to 240 for the whole weekend, 16 games. So big shout out to them. Troy Lint, his first PBA regional win, as well as Daryl Bauer. 5 decades he has won a PBA title, whether it's a national, a senior, or a regional title. 5 decades. Imagine that. Pretty impressive stuff. So I did throw the Axiom Pearl a little bit this past weekend, and one of the things that I was most shocked with was it's much stronger than I anticipated it was going to be. And at the time, this past weekend, I was using a phase 3. We featured that phase 3 here on the video before the shutdown, and I have used that phase 3 quite a bit. Phase 3 is symmetrical, but I have glazed it with a very, very light 2000 a couple of times. It does have some oil in the pores, but I was using the phase 3, and then I felt like, you know what, I'm going to throw this Axiom Pearl on the fill ball, and it read probably 10 feet, maybe 15 feet sooner. So it was much stronger, much more friction than the phase 3, which, you know, that could be because of the fresh cover. That could be because I have altered the cover of the phase 3 a little bit. But I was shocked at how strong it was. And there was actually John Shreve Jr., who bowled in the regional as well. He was using the Axiom Pearl, and it looked great. So this is one of the balls that's been all the buzz out on the mainstream. You saw it go down the lane during the PBA League. I think Frank Lavoie was using it a little bit in the PBA League. I don't know if he made it on the show or not. I can't remember. But I do think he was using it during our qualifying of the PBA League, and it looked pretty good. In our little Storm Rotogrip group chat that we have, it has had some conversation in that. So, you know, just as always, let's go ahead and we'll throw some balls. Before I do that, thank you again to AJ Johnson last week. A lot of you thought that was pretty cool, and I think he did a great job. And it was fun having him on. I like doing those, sit downs every once in a while and trying to get into some controversy and get a little bit more behind the scenes of some of the guys that you guys see on TV, so that you can learn a little bit more about who they are and more about who or what their personality is really like. As we talked about last week, in my case, man, I get under those TV lights and I'm in that competition mode, and I'm perceived sometimes maybe not the best way, but then when I have my bowling shoes off and my competition switch off, I'd like to think that I'm pretty transparent and am willing to share as openly as I can about anything. So hopefully you saw that last week with AJ. He's a pretty nice kid, and he's going to be around for a long time. He throws it great. So, all right. So we're going to start out with, I'll just start out throwing the Axiom Pearl. Full transparency, this is fresh house shot. So I don't know how much in play this will be. I did throw 4 or 5 shots prior to coming live. Normally I don't, because I went for a bike ride on Monday. I'm trying to trim down the beast here. And I rode for an hour on semi-flat tires because I didn't have the little adapter that my bicycle pump goes onto for the tires. It's got this little skinny little thing, and you got to have this little adapter to make me be able to pump the tires up. So I rode for an hour on like almost flat tires, and it was like riding through the mud, riding through the sand. So my legs are still pretty sore. So I threw a few shots to get a little bit loose. All right. So fresh house shot. We'll see how things go. If we need to move to the side to one of the other ones that were used last night, we can go over there and throw these. I think both of these will be more in play later on. And if you're making comments right now about it's about time you got on the bicycle, good for you, because you're right.
Josh commented, he said you're a mess.
I am a mess. All right. So I'm going to start out like I normally do. I'm going to stand 15, look 15, and we'll go from there. There's not that much lateral friction in the track, just because no balls that went down the lane. There is certainly lateral friction because of the ratio of the house shot. And I don't know what it is here. It's got to be 10, 12 to 1, something like that. So we'll just throw shots, and I'll let you in on me throwing on fresh house. I wouldn't use this necessarily on fresh house. I would use this more toward the middle of game 2, end of game 2, going into game 3. I have used that Parallax on our house shot. It looked awesome. I've used it on flatter patterns out on the weekends, a couple of weekends, and it was a little strong and a little wiggly down lane, but we bowled on long patterns, and I think that might have been more me because of my rev rate. Anyways, I'm going to shut up and throw some shots. Stand 15, looking 15. Here we go. So to me, even that shot, wow, that looked pretty strong. Now, by that, I mean it didn't look like it took that much, or it was pretty easy for it to really get going forward. That precession ended up being more, happened more easily than what I would normally expect from a pearlized ball. Let me get my towel behind you here, Tim. I'll try to throw that same shot. I'm not going to increase my speed yet. Same shot. That was a pretty good shot. And it was almost the same hit. Kind of that high flush trip 4 9-pin. The pearlizedness or the response time of the bowling ball, as well as the how high that hit on the head pin. That's why that ball didn't deflect into the 9-pin properly. All right, so what move would I make? What would I do? Well, for right now, let's just stay right here. I'll throw it a little faster, but I'm still sensing the front to back precession of this. It's just a really strong ball. Hopefully you can see that. So even if I speed up, I'm thinking that this might end up weak 10ing, something like that, from here. So a little faster, everything the same. Yeah, that was pretty good. That looked pretty good. Chop that 10 out, so that's good. For all you guys, chop the 10. Still, I would prefer that 3-pin to get into the 6 and directly into the 10, rather than the 3-pin to go straighter back, catch the left side of the 6-pin, hit it off the wall into the 10. But all in all, we all accept that strike. Okay, so I'm going to try to repeat that shot. A little faster, still standing 15, looking 15. That was pretty good. If anything, I think that one I got just a little bit to the side of it, not all the way to the side, but it didn't quite come off my hand as rolly, which I think ended up making that deflection be a little bit better. You saw that one. That certainly wasn't a chop the 10 with the 6-pin. That one was definitely the 6 directly into the 10. So now, wasn't quite the execution that I wanted, but that's certainly the deflection that I wanted. So because I know where I'm at in my ranges, I'm going to try to repeat how I threw that shot rather than the one that chopped the 10, if you understand what I'm getting at. So just a touch to the side of it, not quite as forward. And this rack is just a little bit closed, so this could weak 10. We'll see. Nope, that was pretty good. So that, of those 3 shots that struck, the first one was a little bit more forward off my hand. The second one that I was attempting to be forward ended up feeling like it came off my hand a little bit this way, not all the way over here, but just a little bit this way. And because of that good deflection, I ended up trying to repeat that shot, and I feel like I did. So I'm going to try to repeat that a couple more times. And you can be doing that in your league. You can be who you are, but there's, how many times do you throw a poorly executed shot and then you don't use what happened on that shot, good or bad, in your determination of what you're going to do the next shot? Yeah, I didn't throw that shot good. So you stand there 3 or 4 more frames, and you could have gained some valuable information if you would have only known what the shot that you did achieve, how that relates to ball motion. Okay? All right, same shot as the last 2. Just a touch to the side of it. Keep my speed up. And all 3 of those were pretty good. Okay? So now let's compare that to the Parallax. I'll try to throw the identical shot with the identical hand that I just threw. It's been my experience that, asymmetrical balls, this angle might be shifted out a little bit more, but when you got that extra mass bias, maybe a little bit stronger. But I would say that this feels like it's just a touch weaker than that. So we'll see now. You got to help me watch. Don't just watch. Watch. You know what I mean? We're watching the precession. I'll try to throw the identical shot as those last three. And if I don't, I'll be honest and tell you. That was a pretty good shot, but what I saw between those two balls is that one much easier got up the lane. Did you see that, Tim?
I don't get to watch that while I'm just trying to frame the shot.
Okay.
Rick says since it's fresh, you're looking ahead.
Since I'm fresh, I'm looking ahead. Yeah, obviously. But still, you know, usually, I mean, house shots are a little bit different. You see a lot of pearlized balls go down the lane early on. The problem is that if you start using pearlized balls in league, you can get lined up the first, you know, even your first half of your first game, you're lined up in practice. Well, you start out really good, have 3, 4, 5 in a row. And then you got these pearlized balls, and then all of a sudden, as soon as some of that transition starts to really appear and affect your ball motion, these balls are a little bit more sensitive to that. Shout out to Brent Bowers in Wichita. Started out with through the Axiom Pearl. This is late last week. Shot 899 with it. As I said, John Shreve Jr. was using it this past weekend. Had a couple of 270 games with it. So already we're seeing some good things with this ball. I haven't seen a lot of people throwing this Parallax. I can tell you that the one senior regional a couple months ago in Bowling Green, Lenny Borsch was throwing the Parallax, and he lapped the field. He led the qualifying by like 100 or 150 pins. He bowled great with it. And then fortunately, I was able to come away and beat him in the stepladder. But he certainly bowled the best of anybody that weekend, and he was using a Parallax almost the whole weekend. So I have seen some success. I actually asked him about the Parallax. I said, you know, Lenny, have you been able to use that? I saw him this weekend when we bowled. And he said, yeah, I haven't been able to use it that much. It doesn't look the same as it looked in Bowling Green. But I think it's going to be one of those balls that if you can use it and you know when to use it, that it's going to look pretty good if it looks good. Okay? I've used it in league a couple of times. Had a 250, had a 290. The other night I shot 820. Started out with the first two games with a Rubicon, and then I finished with the Parallax and shot 290 with it. So it certainly has its place. All right, same shot. Okay, I got that one in a little bit. Maybe I talked too much on that one prior to. That was certainly in off my hand. I think it was pretty well executed for the feel that I wanted. I just missed it a little bit, and that's why it went high. All right, throw another shot with it, see if I can repeat it. And then I'll throw the Axiom the same place. Because I want, for some reason, the Axiom looks like it's stronger, to me, a little higher friction than the Parallax. All right. Bearing down execution-wise here. That was pretty good. I would say execution. Chop the 10 out a little bit. Bless you. Still, to me, looks like it gets up the lane a little easier. Axiom from the same place. To me, that looks stronger. And it's like almost without a doubt. Now, just because it looks stronger to me, maybe the numbers say that it's not supposed to be. Maybe the cover stock is stronger on the Axiom. I'll be honest, I don't even know. I haven't paid too much attention to that. I literally drilled this Wednesday night, because I left for the regional Thursday morning. And I didn't even look at the box or the numbers or whatever. Obviously, it's the same numbers as the core-wise as the Axiom Solid. But it certainly ball to ball, the Axiom Pearl looks stronger. All right, so I'll do my normal move left. I'll move 8 and 5 left to show you guys. So I was standing 15, so now I'm 23. Opening my angle of my feet a little bit, so I'm realigning relative to my launch angle. We've talked about it many, many times. Just because I move left doesn't mean I still continue to walk straight and then try to open my launch angle. That can lower your repeatability. So as I move left, I'm realigning to my launch angle, my desired launch angle. So 8 and 5, technically speaking, I have increased my angles 3, whatever that means. Now I'm standing 23, looking 20. So my angles are 3 right of where I'm standing. And that's just a reference number. Okay, it's nothing to get too freaked out about, just knowing where you're at. So now I'm going to have to get a little slower. So I'm going to move forward. But I've realigned to that launch angle. My feet are a little open. You want to get a picture of this open again? Yep. Okay. All right, here we go. Throw just a little slower, 23-20. Still going to keep my hand a little bit on the side. I'm not going to increase my axis very much.
That ball looks so good.
I actually got it in just a little bit. It does look good. Josh just finally got here. That ball, wait, that's what you were throwing yesterday in your video, right? Okay, so you saw Josh throwing it. If you go back and look at Josh's posts, Josh was throwing one of these yesterday over on the other side on lane 3. And it was still the house shot that's over there. And so go ahead, flip around, and let Josh talk for a minute about what he saw. I think it looks good, too.
I think it's super strong. I didn't expect it to be that strong. I have problems getting it to hit the 9th pin. It always wants to drive by the 9th pin no matter what. Same thing as you're seeing here. It's just a strong ball for a pearl ball.
You know, if anything, Josh's characteristics, you haven't been able to see Josh bowl on these videos. But Josh's characteristics are he has more tilt. His track is a little bit lower. He's been working on trying to get his track up and all of that jazz, but it is what it is. And so with that more tilt that he has off his hand, these quicker balls, he hasn't really been able to use these quicker balls. He needs more friction to be able to make that precession happen to get down where he wants it to get. So it might really come into play for you. Some of these other pearlized balls, he tries to use them. And
I've only had
well, come down here so he can.
I've had a lot of success with phase 3, but that's a hybrid, but it's more pearly than it is hybrid.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the Halo Pearl I seem to throw really well and score with. But that ball right there, it reminds me a lot of the phase 3. It really does. Maybe a little bit stronger than the phase 3. It does. I've only thrown it a few shots though too, so I haven't had a good.
Well, it looked pretty good.
Yeah.
But
Because
because
of the pins flying, I'll tell you that much.
well, that's his speed, right? His speed, he throws it, you're probably throwing it 18, 19 miles an hour when it hits the pins. So that has the ability to get those pins really flying. Me, I don't have that ability. But what I did notice this weekend, I did throw this, like I said, on that one fill ball up against the phase 3, and it looked a little too strong. But then I used this during the practice session of the position round. So they gave us 5 minutes before the position round game, and I threw this probably 5 or 6 shots, and still it still looked a little too strong. I ended up using the phase 3 in the position round. So relative to the phase 3, now keep in mind I've altered that surface of my phase 3, but this was certainly stronger looking than that.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So I got that last one in, 23 standing, looking 20. See if I could throw a better shot and get it a little bit more to the right.
Hydroplane.
That one almost fell off my hand on the way down.
All right, quick question.
So my rev rate probably was cut in half on that one. So that's probably why I
Which I
did.
think is a pretty good question because it's a symmetrical pearl too.
Yeah.
How does this stack up against the trusty idle pearl? What you said?
Well, that's a good question. I did try throwing the idle pearl when I was using that phase 3. I threw the idle pearl on one of the fill balls as well, and this is a lot stronger than the idle pearl. A lot. The idle pearl for me, it got up the lane much easier than the phase 3, and then it didn't even really recover. So that tells me that either it saw some oil down lane or it didn't have enough friction to be able to get it to churn down lane. But there again, that idle pearl, I've used that idle pearl a lot that I threw Sunday. And so it does have some gains on it. Probably has, 40 to 60 gains on it over the last year. That's been my favorite one. And it's definitely stronger than the idle pearl, without a doubt. Yes.
Okay, Sean, I know you're gonna love this. When you say stronger, do you mean stronger off the spot or stronger overall?
Well,
we're just laughing because we did a whole half hour on that thing about 2 or 3 weeks ago.
yeah, we did. We had a long discussion about the spot, and so you can watch 2 or 3 weeks ago on the video where we discussed the spot, because there really isn't any such thing as the spot. There is more and more friction. There's the end of the pattern. There's depletion. There's carry down. There's all kinds of things to take into consideration. So what was the question again? We won't get into that, Scott, but go look.
What do you mean by stronger? What do you mean by stronger?
So stronger. Bull U has 2 main ways of determining a bowling ball or categorizing a bowling ball. Hold on, they're just changing.
You're good.
You got it? Okay. Two main components. There is the amount of friction that a ball creates. And then as the ball is coming in contact with more and more friction, or coming in contact with less and less oil, therefore the ball and the surface is rubbing more together, how quickly does that ball respond to that friction? And Bull U calls that response time. Now, response time is a whole other animal in and of itself. We can talk about that at another date. But related to bowling balls, response time is how quickly does a ball respond as it comes in contact with more and more friction. Real quickly, response time. The pattern has a response time characteristic. The surface has a response time characteristic. The phase of transition, fresh blend or burn, has a response time characteristic. Your release has a response time characteristic. The surface prep, the layout, the cover stock, the core, all of it has response time characteristics. So when we talk about stronger, I'm referring to the friction component of the ball. How easily does the ball, how strong is the ball itself? How much friction does the ball create? Do you have bulb tires on your car in the winter? Do you have bulb tires? Do you have regular tires?
Flat tires.
Flat tires? You know, it's funny. I was on that stupid bike ride, and the tires were so flat that whenever I tried to make a right turn, it was like I couldn't. The back tire just kept sliding out. Didn't even have much friction. Do you have studded tires? Do you have chains on your tires? All of those would be friction components of your tires. And in the bowling world, that's what I'm talking about with the Axiom. Okay, so Idle Pearl, I would say, is more medium to medium low friction, and the Axiom is more medium high to high friction. At least that's my initial assessment of it. So certainly I would put it more friction than the Idle Pearl. And then response time wise, I would put them probably relatively the same for right now. So when they come in contact with friction, the length of time on the lane that it takes them to go away from the pocket to make its full move to go back towards the pocket, how long is that? I would say it's still on the quicker side of things.
Rick Benoit's questioning your flat tire story.
Whether they were really flat or.
Well, you know, it's funny because I kept looking down and I was getting a little self-conscious because when I pushed on the tire before I left, I'm like, well, there's enough in here I can go on it. And then when I sat on it, like I felt.
Maybe it was just you.
I felt every rock. Every rock I went over, it was like somebody was throwing like hit me with a hammer on my rear end. I'm thinking, wow, maybe that's me. But when I finally did go get the adapter, Monday afternoon, I went and got the adapter and I tested it. There was only about 20 pounds of pressure in the tires. And so it made me feel a little bit better about myself because there was 20 pounds of pressure in the back tire. All right, what do you guys want me to do? Any more questions?
Slow roll it.
Slow rolling. All right, yeah, I got to throw a better shot than that last one. Okay, now that week 10, for me, that was probably because of the slower speed led to deflection, as well as the strength of the ball. You notice when I had my speed up from both other locations, looked pretty good going through the pins. So the precession on that, because of the speed, obviously got to the side a little bit too early. So it was kind of rolled out. I'll do it again. Okay, now I'll throw this Parallax from there and see if that looks better. I certainly went. Now that would be a place to where I could see my phase 3 working based off of that shot. The phase 3 is a little lower friction, so you know I need the ball to get down the lane. Here, let me throw this Parallax.
Stronger ball creates earlier recession. Rick Benoit.
Yes. Okay, so same shot, same speed. You can see that was weaker, or it got up the lane easier. Even though both were in the same amount of oil, even when I was to the right, I was into more friction on the lane, so I had to adjust my speed and my rev rate accordingly. And when I got lined up with the Axiom Pearl, when I threw the Parallax the same way, even from there, it looked like it was lower friction. So you could see that plain as day, couldn't you, Josh? Do you see that? Yeah. Okay. So I would say the Parallax, a little lower friction.
And people would question it, like, well, that's got the big asymmetrical core in it. How is that even possible? And blah, blah, blah. You know, there's so many people that just live off of whether it's an asim or a symmetrical. You know, there's a lot of other variables that go
Tim, can you zoom in on this rack? Is there a way you can zoom in on this rack?
No, not on this app. I mean, I can get.
Okay, well, go get a good look at that rack, everybody. This is a good teaching moment.
This is why I always give haircuts to
you look at this rack, you should be able to see that the distance between the 1-3, the 1-3 is a little bit closed. And I saw it from back there. Okay. Now, while we're down here, Tim, if you could turn around, I want you to look at some of these carry down lines here, right at the end of the pattern. If you can see them. There's one right here.
I'm trying to use the reflection here. Yeah,
Okay, maybe I'll get out of the way.
Oh, you can see that one.
Okay, so you see how long that is? There's a bunch of other ones you can certainly see.
See a lot of the ones on the left, right over there.
Okay, now you come up here. Hopefully you can see the end of the pattern is somewhere right in here. Can you see that?
Yeah, you can see there's definitely more.
And then can you see this whiter, very shiny in through here and then gets dull right in through here? There's already depletion. I don't know if you can see that. And Tim, if you can stand right here, stand right up here. Whoops, sorry.
You're good.
And look back. I'm going to show. You can see plain as day both zones. So you don't move, I'll move. So right in through here is where the first set was going. And then right over here, you can see some lines where when I moved 8 and 5, where that was going. You can see them right through here. There's the first set. And then you can see the other lines right in through here. I didn't throw as many. You can certainly see more there. Okay. So I wasn't planning on discussing that at all. But if we were to go back down here where the exit lines are, you'll see that the exit lines of the pattern, where the ball's coming out of the pattern, they're all right in through here. Right in through that 5, 6, 7, and 8 zone. Might be a couple in here on 9 and 10. Might be, remember those couple of shots that I threw that I said I missed in? Those still move oil around too. So bad shots as well as good shots move oil around. We talked about this at dinner on Saturday night. I posted a picture of the people that were at the dinner. Ward Eels, Lenny Borsch, Sam Ventura, Bo Gergen, and Tom Baker, the Bakes, and then me. And we were talking about depletion. We were talking about exit lines. We talked about how is it urethane? Just because you're using urethane still flares. It still has flare lines. If you're using urethane that doesn't flare, then it makes these exit lines a lot longer. But if you're using urethane that flares a lot, these lines, they don't all of a sudden get longer. So why is it that just because people use urethane, immediately people think that the lanes get tighter down lane? I'm going to tell you why. Because the people that are using urethane, typically, they have to use shallower angles. And when they're using shallower angles, their ball doesn't get way over here to the right as often. And by the time you get all of these lines down here, the shallower angles, there's a higher concentration of those lateral lines at the end of the pattern as the block goes on because of the shallower angles. Okay? Guys that are using urethane, typically they use closed angles. The ball is going towards the pocket when it gets out of the pattern. There isn't anybody using urethane and getting it down to 50, 52, 54 feet and having it make a left turn or on the left. You might think Jacob Buttroff. You may think his ball's getting way down almost to the pins and then making the right turn. That's not what's happening. So there's more concentration of lines, and that's why it seems like that the lanes are getting tighter when people are using urethane. Not to mention, you got spare shots going down the lane. The big discussion this past weekend was, wow, they were so different during practice as they were when we were really bowling on them. Well, guess what? They always are. However you get lined up in a practice session is going to be different the next day. You know why? Because there's very few plastic balls going down the lane during the practice session. Because there's fewer plastic balls going down the lane, there's fewer lines of transition created from plastic balls at the end of the pattern. And if I were to throw a plastic ball, I won't make Tim go all the way down there. But plastic balls don't flare. So you leave a 10 pin. If I were to throw just one shot with my plastic ball, you would see one long line at the end of the pattern. There's no little dashes anymore. It's one long line. Not to mention, during practice, everybody's using all kinds of different bowling balls, moving all over the lane, playing different angles, trying to, what they would say as, wow, I'm trying to find out what ball looks good. Well, Rick taught me a long time ago, you're better off during the practice session just watching, just observing, watching the pins. What's going to be the best hit to be keying on that week? Are the pins really lively? Are the gutters deep? Is the 6-pin getting out of the gutter, hitting the 10? Or is the 6-pin laying in the gutter really easily? Gaining more of that type of information. Because I'm going to tell you what, if I bowl a practice session anymore, it's really only to eliminate bowling balls. It's not to try to determine which balls I'm going to use the next day. I still need to go in keeping an open mind the next day. So many times a ball will look horrible on practice day and I'll just go put it in my car. But still keeping that in my little file cabinet up in here in my brain that, okay, if I'm throwing a curveball the next day, that ball that didn't look good on practice day might look okay the next day relative to all the other balls, okay? So use practice sessions for eliminating bowling balls, not determining what ball you're going to use and, wow, this ball looks great if I stand here and look here on this lane. Back in the day when I was growing up, people used to keep little notebooks, small little notebooks. Lane,
Still do.
Yeah, they still do. Lane 22, I was standing on 17, looking at 12 with this ball.
You're wasting your goddamn time.
Yeah, you're wasting your time if you're going to do that because bowling has been, and bowling always will be about transition.
Get your observation skills up.
So being visually sharp is more important or as important as being physically sharp. If you don't really know what you're seeing, and even more importantly, if you don't know what you should be seeing, you could end up making a lot of choices strategically that are just in the wrong mode. So now that some of these restrictions are being lifted, let me know if you live nearby here. Let me know. Josh and I are talking about running the Bowl U workshops on Thursday evenings here at our bowling center. We don't have a league on Thursdays right now. So I'm looking at filling that with the Bowl U workshop. So let Josh know on the website or let us know right here in the comments if you're interested in coming to the Thursday Bowl U workshop. And then we'll reach out to you and gather that. We'll probably get it started in the next couple of weeks. Everybody's going to say, how much is it going to cost? Probably going to cost $30, maybe $35 a week. It'll be 3 hours, 3.5 hours, maybe 6:30 to 10, 6:30 to 9:30. So people have enough time to get out of work and get here, but there will be loads of information. And we might, if it's a huge amount of people, we might have to limit that so we can do our social distancing and all that jazz.
Somebody just asked, would you guys do Zoom classes or virtual classes?
Well, we talked about doing Zoom classes or virtual classes. Maybe when we get done with this live feed right now, I'll go ahead and I'll talk with Rick. Is that oh no, that's Lou. Sorry, we have a delivery coming. Maybe I'll talk to Rick about if we want to put together some sort of Zoom classes. Or Josh, maybe you and I can just do that.
Another Rick just asked, where are you doing these classes?
I'll be doing the classes here at Brad Angelo Lanes in Lockport on Thursday evenings. Again, if you haven't already liked 10 in the Pit Pro Shop, make sure you check on there for details, because as soon as we're done with this today, we're going to be talking about putting together the Thursday evening Bowl U classes. When are they going to start? Details on that, as well as a Baker doubles tournament we're going to be putting together here at Brad Angelo Lanes. Probably sometime in the next month. A lot of people like bowling doubles. I had a blast this weekend bowling doubles. You know, it's just a different feel when you're bowling, you know, doubles, trios, or team event. Rick, I know you, Rick Benoit, this is. I know you had just posted recently about how team bowling should be the direction that we end up going again in our sport. It was great. You know, you're so much more in tune. Communication is so important between partners.
It's really important for that leadoff bowler to get everyone amped up too,
It's
right?
really important for that leadoff bowler to respond to the other team's leadoff bowler in such a way that you're not going to intimidate us. So, and that's a reference to mine and AJ's exchange on the PBA League. So, but anyways, look for any of the information on our site, but let Josh know on the Facebook 10 in the Pit Facebook page. You can reach out to me, let me know if we're already friends. I've been getting a lot more friend requests lately. I've been reluctant to accept any more friend requests because it's just too hard to monitor all of them. But if you send me a message along with the friend request and say, I'm interested in the Bowl U workshop on Thursday evenings, or Lenny Borsch, for those of you that are up near Kenosha, Wisconsin, where Lenny's from, which, by the way, my heart goes out to you, those of you that live near that area. Lenny was telling me some of the things that he's seen firsthand with some of the riots, the political stuff going on up there. I'm so sorry to hear. I hope our country heals soon. That's a whole nother conversation. But Lenny was saying that he would love to put a Bowl U workshop together up there, up in the Wisconsin area. So if you're interested in that, reach out to us. If you're interested in getting one in your area, reach out to me. We'll start scheduling those. And if there's a time and a place we can get to, yeah, we'll come down and we'll do that. All right. Anything else? Questions? Anything else? Axiom Pearl. My assessment is that the Axiom Pearl is certainly going to earn its way into a lot of people's arsenals, just as the Axiom has. Great balls. Great balls. If you like the Phase 3, I think the Axiom Pearl is maybe just a little higher friction and a little quicker response. So if you like that Phase 3, that hybrid, then I think this Axiom is definitely should be added in your game. And if you're around here and you want to come here and have Josh and I make an assessment of your game, your arsenal, and help you pick a ball, we'll be glad to do that too. You just got to reach out to Josh, make an appointment, and as long as I'm in town, I'll be happy to meet you. Bring all your bowling balls in. We'll put them on the floor. We'll response time, friction. We'll spend some time with you and help you get matched up to the ball. And you'll be shocked once we do that. Friction, response time. Once we do all that on the floor and you take a picture, you start seeing real quick where there could be holes in your arsenal. And then we'll go in the shop and we'll look at what balls would fill that, or maybe it's time to replace a ball, or wow, you use this ball? Look at these grips. The grips are all hard. You know, maybe at the very least you should get new grips in there. How many times you see that when we do those arsenal things?
I saw that a couple days ago.
Yeah,
when
just
I was
a couple.
getting my ass chewed out, but yeah.
So we see that all the time. All right. So, hey, thanks for tuning in. Let us know about that Thursday Bowl U workshop if you want to come here, if you're interested, and then we'll be sure to get you details.
Set something up while you're teaching that workshop. We could have somebody paid or some type of Zoom thing and have like a camera set up.
Yeah, those are all ideas. And once we finalize what we're going to do, we'll end up announcing it on our Wednesday show. So again, that'll be sometime in the next week or two. Okay. Don't hold us to it, because Michelle and I are still trying to get this place turned around. If you're out of town and you're watching this, please support your local bowling center. Please get in there and support them. It is very, very difficult right now. There was a handful of people this past weekend that own bowling centers. Daryl Bauer, he and his son Jonathan, they own three centers down around the Harrisburg area. You know, it's a grind. Bo Gergen, his family owns a bowling center in Michigan. It's a huge grind with what they've been through. I know what Michelle and I have been through here, as well as some of the surrounding centers. So even if you don't bowl here, even if you don't support what Michelle and I are doing here, you know what, so be it. But we need you. We probably now more than we ever have. So I don't mean it to be a sob story. It's just that, man, we're getting crushed everywhere. I don't know any place that's up. I don't know any place that's up bowlers. I know one day last week we had $12 of open bowling for the day. $12. So we're looking at putting together some once a month leagues, maybe mixed couples leagues, you know, yeah, tournaments, stuff like that. If you hear about that, you know, some of you more competitive bowlers, yeah, I get it. You want to bowl in those competitive leagues and you're already in leagues. But if you have an open night and your local center is trying to put something together just to fill some bowlers for that night, please consider joining that league and helping them out. That's my plea. You know, I don't mean to make it sound like it's a real sob story, but it's a sob story. So support your local bowling center. And if there's no more questions, we'll call it a day. All right, Axiom Pearl, great ball. Next week, I don't know what we'll do. Check the 10 in the Pit Facebook page, and we'll decide what we'll do next week. And so we're going to sign off. We're going to go plan the Bowl U workshop and the tournament, the Baker Doubles tournament. So thanks, everybody, for joining in. All right, take care. Have a great week.